So again, it's not a monolith. It's a little bit more complicated, but overall, the mass of MAGA is anti-immigration, and I obviously don't agree with them on that. I'm an immigrant, and I'm first generation. I wasn't even born here, right? So all this talk of deportations, and now this crazy thing that one of them came out with, denaturalizing people. That's just nuts, right? So,
Ooh, this is going to be an interesting one, and this is going to be an interesting week because things have been heating up online. As you may or may not know, Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy got into it online, and they're supposed to be on Donald Trump's team, but they said some things that MAGA do not like. I do not like. I don't even consider myself MAGA, really. Certainly America first, though. For Americans, just like I'm Belgium first for Belgium first for Belgium, where I live, or any country first, obviously. But here we have Cenk Uygur, and for once we're not on the Young Turks channel, but on the Bituation Room with Francesca Fiorentini, who apparently is a contributor to the Young Turks, and she is very, very concerned that Cenk Uygur has been going on the shows of evil right-wingers and not pushing back enough against them, kowtowing to them almost, and she wants to know why. And Cenk is going to try to explain, but I do wonder how sincere he is. It's hard to tell. Let's get into it.
Vivek Ramaswamy, if they were a monolith and they were robots and they were a cult, that would never happen. Now, I happen to agree with Elon and Vivek on that issue.
I was going to ask you, actually.
Yeah, but first of all, hey, there I am agreeing with Elon and Vivek. Why? Because they agree with us.
So this is
specifically the issue is H-1B visas. We'll talk about it more later.
This is about HB1 visas and allowing high-skilled professional immigrant workers who work in tech to be allowed in. The MAGA base says that
lie number one: H-1B visas are nothing to do with allowing in super high-skilled elite immigrants from other countries. That is not at all what they're for. They are supposed to be for visas to hire abroad, to hire staff abroad, because a company cannot find an American to fill that role. But of course, they have been greatly abused since the whole program was established in 1990, and they are absolutely used. The H-1B visa program is absolutely and clearly used. It's been proven by employers to simply hire cheap labor. Now, it's not cheap blue-collar labor like we get when we allow millions of illegals to cross our border. It is cheap white-collar labor. And yes, it is serious, and it is a problem. And it is not the only problem with immigration. Far from it.
That's obviously immigration, and they want to cut down on that. But Elon and Vivek, again, two millionaire and the richest man on earth, want that. Does that not fly in the face of some of what you've been saying about the base and how the base is actually great and the base is great at populist ideas? One of those populist ideas, Cenk, is mass deportations, is stopping any migration, is getting people out of this country.
That's right.
Yeah. So, Franny, it's a great question. And so that's why what's happening today is actually so interesting. Because number one, are we allowed to agree with anyone on the other side? Elon said terrible things. He backed that crazy radical right-wing party in Germany, et cetera, right? But that doesn't mean he's wrong about these visas. We've had that position on visas our whole lives, right? We agree with, or he has now come to agree with us. Same with Vivek. Now, but what's interesting is, so now MAGA, the populist base of MAGA, rebels against Elon and Vivek. So number one, that shows that that my thesis that they will rebel against their leaders is true. Okay. Now, do I agree with them on this rebellion? I don't. But remember, just because they're populist doesn't mean they agree with us on everything. On social and cultural issues, we have massive disagreements. Massive. I'm looking for the agreements on the economically populist stuff. So on this one, they're anti-immigration. And so again, it's not a monolith. It's a little bit more complicated. But overall, the mass of MAGA is anti-immigration, and I obviously don't agree with them on that. I'm an immigrant, and I'm first generation. I wasn't even born here, right? So all this talk of deportations, and now this crazy thing that one of them came out with, denaturalizing people. That's just nuts, right? So, and I say that to their face in all the shows that I go on. I go, look, I don't agree with this. I don't agree with that. I think you're nuts on this, right? But now we do agree on some things: anti-war, anti-corruption, etc. Even if they, I know, guys, I know Trump is massively corrupt, and they've been misdirected. But within that chaos of the right wing, interesting different coalitions can break out, as you're seeing today with these different coalitions within MAGA. So imagine if we had, look, this is really wild, right? But you've got to take a first step to be able to get to this ultimate conclusion. Imagine if we had voting blocks that weren't strictly Republican or Democrat or strictly MAGA or not, and we could then join the voting block, in this case with Vivek and Ilan, and protect these visas, right? Or in another case, we could join the populist right-wing bloc and prevent a war. Again, those are like huge dreams.
I mean, I think it's sort of a deal with the devil either way. I do want to just step back. I want to step back from the news a little bit and truly understand what you believe you are doing and who you believe you represent. Just really briefly, who you believe you represent when you go on these shows. You say we a lot, and I'm not sure who you are referring to when you say we. Is it yourself? Is it you? And is it Anna and you and Anna? Is it all of TYT? Is it the broader left? Who do you think you represent when you?
So as you can see, she's being very, very polite to Cenk, but she's obviously very upset. And if you look at the comments, you can't see it on screen, but this was a live stream, and all the commenters in the stream are just going nuts against Cenk. And of course, the comments under this video, they think he's a complete sellout, a hack, a fascist, a right-winger, all this sort of thing. Now, I have no idea how genuine Cenk is being. Maybe he's read the writing on the wall, and he thinks he needs to, take the Young Turks in a different direction to get some sweet grift money, as all his critics are saying. I have no idea. I don't really care. And as he just said, yeah, okay. Progressives, leftists, agree with Elon and Vivek on one particular sub-part of the big issue of immigration. They agree on the need for H-1B visas. Wow. I can understand this woman's, Francesca Fiorentini's, her confusion about that, because that's just, H-1B visas is just one small part, actually, of the whole immigration issue. And yes, basically, the immigration issue really should come down, and there's several aspects to it. It should be called the mass immigration issue, because the main problem in Europe, where I live, in Belgium and other Western European countries, and in the United States, and in Australia, and in Canada, is mass migration. Legal or illegal, doesn't matter. Both of them are bad, and specifically mass migration from non-European countries. Yes, you have to be open and clear about it, and don't have a hissy fit if you think that's being racist or whatever. The fact is, European countries are for Europeans, and the Anglosphere countries, the United States, Canada, New Zealand, Australia, Ireland, UK, etc. They, obviously the UK is sort of the motherland of the United States, but the United States was created, Canada was created, Australia was created by Europeans, for Europeans. And they remained European for the vast majority of their history. In the United States, they remained vastly, European until about 1965, at which point the Immigration and Naturalization Act of 1965 was implemented for the specific purpose. It was sort of shoehorned in, and it completely turned around the immigration quotas that had been in place until then. Until then, the United States had only accepted immigration from Europe. Yeah, more specifically Northern Europe, and then some from Southern Europe, from Italy. One big exception, of course, being from China. They wanted a bunch of cheap labor to build the railroads back in, the late 19th century. And but then they stopped it. They imported a bunch of Chinese specifically for that purpose, but then they stopped it. So the immigration policy of the United States and of the other Anglosphere countries and of all European countries was for Europeans, obviously, because they were European countries. Now, the United States has a slightly different, obviously, context because Africans were brought over as slaves, and so their descendants obviously have a place in the United States. And, their situation, that's a debate for another time, another video. But, they obviously have a place here. And, of course, there was the American Indians, the Native Americans. But like it or not, that's what the United States was created for. It was created by Europeans for Europeans and their posterity, as the founding fathers called it. They did not create the United States to be a dumping ground of mass migration from all around the world. No, they did not do that. And it doesn't mean to say you don't want loads of Africans or loads of Asians or loads of Indians or loads of whoever in your country. It does not make you racist, does not make you hateful, nothing like that. Nobody's saying that they hate Asians or Indians or Africans, but they're saying they simply don't belong. Not en masse in Western countries. They just don't. And moreover, that's one issue of immigration, which all the conservatives kind of shy away from, but I think that's going to come out to the fore more now in the wake of this huge online battle between Vivek and Elon on one side and the Maga base on the other. The conservatives refused to even mention the European aspect of immigration, or the white aspect as it's termed, because it makes people think of white supremacy, which it's not. The second aspect, I think, is a moral one, personally. Why the United States, the Western world, should not be poaching the very best people from the third world. Absolutely not. They should be doing the opposite. They should be encouraging them to stay. In fact, they should be refusing. That's one of the reasons they should not let them come at all, is because their countries need them. Taking the very best people from these countries, from African countries, or we don't call it the third world anymore, the less developed countries, the global south, whatever it's called these days. That is morally wrong. Those best people belong to those countries. Those countries need those people. Okay? So we have a moral duty not to take them, to refuse them. And thirdly, we don't need them. I'm sorry. Just sorry. I'm sure employers in the United States and other Western countries would love to hire, software developers from India for 1/3 of the salary or 1/2 the salary. Of course they want to, because it just costs less. But, in pure economic terms, maybe you could make an argument for that. But sorry, this is not the United States or Western Europe are not an economic zone for massive, industrialists to play around in and to move economic production units, i.e. people, around as they see fit, from around the world as they see fit in order to maximize profits and shareholder value. No, this is our home. Western Europe is our home. America is our home. They are not, as Vivek said online over the Christmas break, this is not a baseball team or a basketball team where we just want the best talent, so we win as many games as possible. It's not about America winning. It's about doing the right thing and good things for the American people, or the Belgian people in my case, or the German people, or the Australian people. That's what it's about. That's what our leaders should be doing. But our leaders don't do that. They get in bed. And this is where Cenk is right about the anti-establishment part of both the left and right. Our leaders are completely in bed with the establishment, with the oligarchs, with the massive industrialists, or the capitalists, if you want to call them that, if you have that kind of Marxist bent. But whatever. The left is right about this. Yeah, we should be anti-establishment in that regard. Absolutely, they do not have our best interests at heart for the most part. That's become abundantly clear. So that's another aspect of this. So H-1B, not only should H-1B should just be scrapped immediately. And H-1B again, it's been you'll see in the media they constantly go out about how H-1B is for high performers, and and we're trying to get the best of the best. That's not what H-1B is for. There's a completely different visa category for that, which I think should also be scrapped, because I think basically at this point there's no sort of tinkering around the edges of these programs, which again a lot of the so-called conservatives or Republicans are now going to propose. Even Elon proposed that as a sort of a sop to all the attacks he was getting. Yeah, well, yeah, there's problems with the visa program, but we can fix it. It just needs more oversight. No, it doesn't need more oversight. The whole thing needs to be scrapped, and not just H-1B, all of them, the entire program. In fact, all immigration, full stop, moratorium today. Okay, moratorium today, legal and illegal. Stop everything. Then, this is my hardcore approach. Then do all the deportations which are needed. The low-hanging fruit is obviously the illegals, the criminals, and all that. All the people shouldn't be here. Stop anchor baby, stop the whole anchor baby scam. If you're an anchor baby, this is what people are talking about. If you're an anchor baby, well, like Vivek was, Vivek was born in the United States to non-citizens. Yeah, sorry, Vivek, maybe you have to go back. Sorry, Elon, maybe you have to go back unless you're going to really change your tune. So we need to just total moratorium immediately. Let the situation cool down for a few years, during which we do all the hard work. And the work actually doesn't need to be that hard. Once all the illegals who are here see that they're going to be kicked out, I have a feeling a lot of them will self-deport. But yeah, that it has to be done. And the longer we kick the can down the road, the worse it's going to get. And yes, there will be a lot of upheaval against it, of course, but there doesn't have to be. You just have to run a serious country. Look at Singapore. They do not put up with this kind of stuff at all. At all. You're illegal, you're gone. Next day, gone. They will find you and get you out. Now, that can work in a tiny city-state like Singapore. It's run in a completely different way from a big country like the United States. But you have to have that will to do it. And then we can talk about other things like denaturalization and all that we can see later. But sorry, that's just the way it's going to have to be, as far as I'm concerned. Now, I have a feeling I've probably said some things that are going to upset some of you in the comments. But please, go ahead and make your comments, without being all snarky. Just say what you think about these various issues, and I will be happy to discuss them with you in the comments. And there's going to be more videos on this for sure, because this is a huge issue right now. It's a good thing. In fact, I'm glad that Elon just lost his mind on, it was, I think, Christmas Eve, Christmas Day. He just started losing his mind on Twitter. But it's brought up this huge issue. It's opened some major fault lines within the Republican Party, which is a good thing. All the leftists are gloating. I can see on Facebook. I don't do social media anymore, but I keep an eye on it. And I see on Facebook all my leftist relatives are gloating about, buying popcorn to watch this civil war amongst the Maga crowd. Okay, fine. Yeah, it needs to be hashed out. Absolutely, it does. And we need to start saying, calling a spade, saying the truth about what needs to be done, what has been done, what got us to this situation, what was working before, what got us to this situation now, and what we have to do to fix things. So let me know what you think in the comments. I do appreciate it. I've been reading all the comments and replying to quite a few. In the meantime, like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.